everyone. Welcome back to the L.A.M.E Book Club podcast. My name is Melissa.
I'm Ellie.
And this week, instead of doing a
hot goss with unpopular sauce,
we're actually going to be doing a new type of episode called
New Book Special.
This week, we will be talking about a new book called Riftborne by Grenwich and Lennox, and we're very excited to dive into that, and I will let Ellie get into that a little bit later. But before we do, some housekeeping to take care of. Ellie, do you have our patron info?
Yes. First of all, thank you guys so much for joining our Patreon. If you are interested in our Wednesday book clubs, they are going to start moving over to Patreon, so we're going to have those bi-weekly.
Yep, bi-weekly.
Yeah,
this week is our last one that's going to be up. The very last Kingdom of Ash episode, chapters 101 through 121, plus the epilogue. It will go live this Wednesday, but after this Wednesday, if you want to listen to them, you got to join Patreon.
Yes. And so, for those who did join, we have our Patreon shoutouts. So thank you to Serenity, Madison, Emily, Tia, Ashley, Maud, Nancy, Katie, Alex, Chandler, Rebecca, Bailey, Rianne, and Ada. You guys are the best.
Thank you.
Thanks for being
thank
here.
You guys so much. And
it is
Ellie,
October.
Yeah, it's October. What does that mean?
That means we have our spooky story competition. So
I'm sorry, our what?
Our spooky story competition.
I'm just kidding. I'm being
annoying. You're one of those. Like, you know how they do the, hey, everyone, good morning. I can't hear you. I freaking hate that. Like, once is enough. I've said good morning. Stop.
But think about it.
You might need the audience energy to, like, get amped, but, like, don't. Just don't, I think.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, think about it from their perspective. How hard is it to do whatever you're about to do if everyone's just staring at you?
I don't know. I mean,
but I'll agree. Forcing them to say the same thing over again isn't the move to get them interested in what you're about to say.
How about you like hand out money? That will make me pumped. Or like food, free voucher. Like, you know, okay, at our hockey games, this is really taking a tangent. At our hockey games, if like the Preds score a goal, that might have given away where I live. If the Preds score a goal, then everybody gets like a free Dairy Queen ice cream. And you get a little, like a voucher, whatever.
Yeah.
So, maybe something like that. Good morning, everyone. Here's a free Dairy Queen ice cream. Yeah! That would be me.
However, I will just, whatever. I get what you're saying. Even though you have no impact on them scoring a goal or not. That's all up to the players. But I digress. No free vouchers here, unfortunately. I don't even remember what we were talking. Oh, spooky stories. But it's October, so we have spooky stories this month. Our Halloween episode will be one you will not want to miss, I assure you. And we are reading off your scary stories or spooky story submissions. There's a link in our Instagram bio, also in our link tree, which can also be found in our Instagram bio. So ultimately what I'm saying is go to our Instagram page if you want to submit a story. There's a link to a Google form where you can submit it. And if we pick your story to be read on the episode, then you will receive a L.A.M.E Book Club Pod sticker. And if your episode or your story wins, is aka the spookiest on the episode, then you will get a swag bag. So there's incentive. I guess there is incentive for you to join.
There it is. It's not a Dairy Queen ice cream, but it is a sticker and a possible swag bag if you are the winner, if you're found the most worthy of such scary.
You know what? And at this point, I feel like I was going to say, we have to add a Dairy Queen gift card into the swag bag.
Oh, we might need to.
There's the voucher right there.
I love that.
Guess what? There is Dairy Queen gift card.
Yeah! Also, your story can be scary. It can be a real life experience. It can be just a little spooky. It can be totally fictional. It can be a hybrid of both. Under 1,000 words. I know it feels like you have time, but the cutoff is October 24th.
Yes.
So please submit your stories. We've gotten a few. We're so excited to read them. And it's just going to be it's going to be a ball. It's going to be a spooky ball, if you will.
A spooky ball.
Guys, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We love to read them. And we have one from this week. It comes from Cat Herder 1. 5 stars. It says, it's the TV show / movie / brain rot references for me. Thank you. They say, the way that I'm cracking up in my completely silent office is worth everyone meerkatting over their cubicle to see who is having too good of a time at work. Highly recommend. Thanks so much, Kat.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. It's the brain.
I have the break in the silence.
If anyone wants, I have tons of extra brain rot I'm happy to give out. So I'm really glad that was acknowledged.
Ain't that the truth? For me as well. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. Like and subscribe again on Spotify. Like and subscribe again. And that is our housekeeping. Everyone, thanks so much for being here. Let's get crack-a-lackin'.
Yes.
As the zebra says in Madagascar. This
AKA
week,
Chris Rock.
This week, we are talking about Riftborn. Guys, for real, this book was so good. I think we both really, really liked it. It was very enjoyable. Yeah. We were given an art copy of Riftborn by the authors Grenwich and Lennox, and now it is out in the world, so we are going to talk about it. If you haven't read it, I have been telling you to for the past few weeks, so my advice is, at this point now, go read it. I still think it's worth it. It is very Fourth Wing without dragons and Red Queen coded. We're going to give a summary that leaves out much of the detail that makes us swoon over this book, but then we're going to ask each other questions that will involve more details, so there will be spoilers involved. But I think you should still listen to the episode. I think even if you hear the bulk of the story, you're going to be like, I do want to read that. Because that's how I am. And everyone's like me. I just know it inside.
Yeah.
So, the tropes for this book, Melissa, include reluctant hero, enemies to lovers,
my favorite,
found family, forced proximity.
Also a favorite.
And then, not a trope, but I had to highlight because I love reading about this. There is quite a bit of jealousy involved. You know, when there's like misunderstanding and it's like, why are you with her? And then she's like, because he likes me. And then it's just devastating.
There is a lot of that. Good. Yep.
Yes. So, without further ado, shall I read the summary so we can all be on the same page?
You shall.
Riftborn is a story of a girl living in a kingdom divided. In this book, we follow Fia Riftborn, who is our fabulous FMC living in the city Luminaria. She struggles to control her focus, or as she calls it, her curse. After an unexpected eruption of her powers, she nearly kills 2 girls and is caught by the General Laryk Ashford, who is the general of the She army that once defeated her people. General Ashford is the general of the Venom faction in the She Guard, which is a faction made up of the most powerful and unique focuses in the Guard. Ashford, also, side note, focuses are similar to like Fourth Wing signets. It's someone's power. Ashford forcefully recruits her with the promise of helping her control her focus, but this creates an inner turmoil for Fia as she is now faced with the fact that she is surrounded by her enemies on the daily. Fia struggles to find the balance between controlling her focus, making new friends, keeping her old friends, and navigating a palpable romantic tension between the general and herself. This was steamy. I liked it. After some time spent one-on-one training with the general, Fia learns not only how to control her power, but that she's only scratched the surface of what her power truly was. Once she fully integrates into the Guard lifestyle, she realizes that her prejudices were too quickly assumed. Not everyone hates Riftborn people, and she doesn't hate the Ishi as much as she thought, which are the people surrounding her in Luminaria. There is a new threat that is made known to the She Guard, shadow-like creatures known to suck the breath from your lungs. Enter the Wraiths. Mm-hmm. These creatures have no known weaknesses, and not much is known about them other than the fact that they're stronger when they're closer to the west. And there's a lot more that goes into that, but I suggest you read the book for yourself to find out. We couldn't include it in a summary.
Just a summary, folks.
Yeah. Far too detailed.
Otherwise, we'd just be sitting here reading the book to you, and as much fun as that would be, go get it yourself. Do it yourself.
Do it yourself. Much of the Venom faction training surrounds basic survival skills and how long can you hold your breath, which for me, not long. I could not make it.
Also, it's a lot more than that, but there is specifically one part where it's literally just about holding their breath, and so it's funny that she said it like that, but it's not as childish as that sounds.
No, there is exactly that. There is so much more.
Yeah,
but what stood out is because the Wraiths take the breath from everyone's lungs, like they do have to train their breathing skills.
Exactly.
And I simply couldn't. I think I have weak lungs.
I can't decide if I have weak lungs or just very little willpower, because I can only hold my breath for about 20 seconds. Like,
is it my ability or am I lazy? Because I'm not going to work on it, to be honest.
Is it my lungs? Oh, no, never mind. I was about to get really dark. I was like, is it my lungs or is it my will to live? But that's not true. I know. I take it back. I regret it. Keep going.
Just days after Fia is initiated into the Guard, she and the rest of the Venom faction are deployed to the west in order to fight and hopefully defeat the Wraiths. While on the way to Stormshire, where the warfront was, they stopped in Emerald, where Fia and General Laryk Ashford raised some sparks. Wink, wink. They attend a ball. Yeah. This is also, I might add, not a YA book. So there's some spice in here. They attend a ball, which, given the current events, seemed like not the right time for a ball, if you ask me, in my humble opinion. But also, if you ask Fia herself, she was like, "This ain't it."
That's
but
actually,
nonetheless,
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to cut you off, but it is so funny to me because we specifically added that into the summary because if we're just like, oh yeah, they're on the way to the warfront to fight this new enemy that's destroying life as they know it, and that they don't even know how to defeat. But they make a pit stop to have a little gala, and I love that the authors included that in the book. It's not like, do we all love having a ball in a book? Absolutely. Is there a time and a place for it? Yes. And so I love that that was not lost on. It's not just like, oh, and let's just throw another ball in here. It's like, even the main character's like, why? This does not seem like the thing we should be doing. And they're just like, shh, it's what we do. Like, and it's like, okay.
I loved that. Yeah.
Me too.
Yes. Nonetheless, it was an awesome scene. I truly did like the ball. It was a great ball. What am I supposed to say? What do you want? Until the Wraiths decide to sneak attack, and Fia found herself fighting for her life and the lives of everyone else. After a near-death experience and a surprise unlocking of the next level of her powers, Fia is taken by the Wraiths. However, and here comes the plot twist, so this is your very last chance and warning that if you want to read this book without any spoilers at all, maybe stop here. But Fia wakes up realizing she's not in Kansas anymore. She has been taken by the Wraiths, but they are surprisingly amicable. She also feels stronger and better wherever they took her. The grand slam reveal is that she is, in fact, one of them, explaining why she has always felt and looked different. But now she's closer to her real home and feels stronger and better. The book ends with Fia learning that the Wraiths are actually called Umbras and that she has been taken to Umbrathia. Luminaria, the place that she has lived and known her whole life, was actually the enemy all along. It's like when the glasses are removed from the ugly girl and they're like, you were beautiful the whole time. This is like,
this is what's been hiding underneath. She was never ugly to begin with, but just the glasses made her a nerd. And so So it's giving she's all that.
Yes. Turns out they have been draining Umbrathia. Luminaria has been draining Umbrathia of its resources and power and killing off the Umbra who are avenging themselves. This is why Luminaria has thrived under the rule of the current king. Fia's eyes have been opened and her power is now stronger than ever, paving the way to the next book. Ooh.
Dun, dun, dun. And honestly, okay, this is a really great summary. I truly did enjoy this book. There are elements of the way, like a little bit of the writing style that isn't like necessarily my preference, but the story in this book is truly really good. And it took me, I think once it was about halfway through, I was like, okay, like I'm committed to it at this point. But when I tell you, Ellie finished it before me and she was like, oh, there's a plot twist that you're like, it's so good at the end. So knowing that something was going to happen, I was trying to guess it like the whole time. I'm like, oh, I bet it's this. Oh, I bet it's that. When I tell you, this is not what I was expecting, like at all. I wasn't. And I don't necessarily know why I wasn't. I think it was the way it's written is just so like snip snap. And I am so excited for where this is going. Like, I cannot wait for the second book because they set it up so well for now to be like an epic turn of events. Plus, we didn't mention this, but General Laryk is a redhead, which totally fine. But I was a little surprised that the MMC was a redhead. But then at the very end of the book, we meet one of the Umbras that has dark hair and piercings. We're giving me Rune from Crescent City vibes and the way he was described. And I'm like, oh shoot. Is this going to be a Tamlin scenario? Is Laryk Tamlin? Is this guy going to be the Reese? Like, who knows? And so I'm like fully invested. I'm like, I need to know who is the real MMC in this story now. Is it going to flip on us? Is it good? Because I love Laryk.
Like, I love Laryk. Yeah,
I know.
He hasn't done anything wrong.
He hasn't done anything wrong.
But also,
will he?
He is a general for the enemy that we now know.
Yeah.
So it's like,
will he choose Fia over his
over
station?
duty and honor? Yes.
Oh my goodness.
We need the answers. So
yes.
Outrageous. This book was fabulous. It really did. I feel like the twist in the end is where the most like,
it made
that reminds me of Fourth Wing. Like that is such a good, solid.
Yeah.
What? And so similar to how we all felt like we need the second book immediately, that is how I feel with this book. I cannot wait. It's fabulous. Yeah. So without further ado, Melissa and I have come up with some questions for each other.
We sure have.
Based on the theme of Riftborn. Yeah.
Yes. And this is where a little bit more explaining will come into play. Truly, if you've listened to the summary, there's really not going to be anything else in here that's going to necessarily be spoiled for you, but more detail will be given. So again, if you want to read it first and then come back and listen, once again, another heads up. But do you want, as far as questions, Ellie, do you want me to ask you? We can go back and forth. Do you want me to go start first?
Oh yeah, let's go back and forth. Yes.
All right. There are a lot of focuses in this book, and we're not necessarily going to get into all of them. But Ellie, which focus was your favorite, and or which one would you want to have?
I'm just going to be so basic. I am. Fia's was absolutely my favorite, and I think maybe because we got to dive in more of like what hers actually is. I know we maybe got 5 or 6 definitions of other focuses, but by far Fia's was my favorite because not only was she able to like melt minds, that's how her power started out, right? Mm-hmm. But then
they jokingly call her Mind Shredder, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah. As her power develops, we learn she can control minds.
Yeah.
Which just shook me to my core because I'm already like, okay, that's a pretty cool one, melting minds. Now she just needs to learn how to control it, and she's going to be a weapon of unstoppable force. But the fact that it developed, it didn't just stop there, was not on my bingo card. And then not only that, it developed again to where she could hop into others' dreams and speak to them through their mind. Outrageous. So I would want that, and I loved that. That's my answer.
No, yours? I like that too. Yeah, well, so obviously Fia's is the coolest. I think the reason, like, outside of everything you just said, what I liked the most about her focus was the way that they wrote it. Like, the way it was described was just so different from any other. And I'm not saying it, like, I haven't read every book in the world, but from books I've read, it's very different. They describe it as it being, like, a webbing that comes from the base of her spine all the way up and then out from there. And so I pictured, like, a iridescent white spider web, like kind of just like sucking to someone's mind. And I don't know, it was cool. Like, it was very different, and I just thought that was cool. So obviously that, but for the sake of having a different answer, I think one of the coolest, most practical focuses that I could pick would be Briar's. He controlled like elements, like specifically earth. So like he was the Avatar, shoot his hand out and like a bunch of vines would come. What'd you say?
I said he was the Avatar, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, medium. And I don't know. I think it would just be kind of cool to be able to like just control my grass and make my garden overflow.
That is practical.
Like,
and if we're not fighting a battle, like, I have really no. I mean, I'm a little petty sometimes. I'd like to read minds. I'd like to know what people think about me. I'd like to influence things. Whatever. Put me in jail. But yes, practically, speaking, I would love to have one of those, what do they call it? Those magazine style gardens where you're just walking through. Yes. And it's like, this is just
Better
my
Homes
house.
and Garden.
Yeah. Better Homes. That's the one.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Also, I would like, practically speaking, once again, maybe Osta's where you really notice the details and things. Like, just the details pop out at you, because as an accountant, I think I could do the best.
I think you could be the best accountant in the world.
That way. Yeah.
I think you could you could be a CPA.
Sure could. So, good question. Here's one of mine.
Thank you.
Do you think that Baron getting demoted was enough of a punishment for him. Mind you, Baron got demoted. Would you like to explain that?
Yeah, absolutely.
You have a better memory than me.
So I just read it a little bit more recently, so it's fresh. Baron is the Draco Malfoy of this story, quite literally to how he's described. He has super blonde, slicked back hair. So like OG Draco, beginning in the first books, or movies at least. And he is a bitter, bigoted little man. He absolutely hates Fia and any other Riftborn. And the read the book to like on it. I don't want to like explain it too much, but all you need to know is that he sucks. And he made a comment to Fia that her and General Laryk Ashford were sleeping together, and he made this like very publicly. Mind you, this was well before they were even together, so there was no validity to it, although we were all hoping for it. And then after that, he says, well, General Laryk he threatens his life, and so like something about his, like he should know better, like he should be blah blah blah. And so because he recruit threatened the life or said something about the lifespan of a general, he was court-martialed essentially, and General Laryk chose to demote him. So he was originally a part of their little group in the Venom faction, and then he got demoted to, what was it? I think it was Scale.
Yeah, something like that.
And so I personally think he should have been kicked out of the guard completely. I feel like that because Baron came from like a legacy. His dad was like one of the greatest generals of all time that the guard had ever seen. And his dad was credited with the victory over Fia's people. And when they beat that world. So, I think it would have been a bigger middle finger to him if he had been kicked out completely instead of just demoted. But I think it speaks to Laryk's kindness by not fully demoting him, or by not fully kicking him out.
You know, truth be told, I'm really surprised that any punishment was brought on him, because I feel like so often in these kinds of books you get a lot of nepotism and like, well, that's the captain's son. We can't do anything to him. So I was shocked that the follow through was there, but also very harsh for a like snide comment. So am I crazy that maybe it was too much punishment for him?
No.
Maybe he should have just taken a couple gut punches and then just been done and still been in the faction. I don't know. If he could help at the time, you know, we saw them as they're the good guys. So if he could help the army more being in the Venom faction, shouldn't he just be in it? But insubordination is a tough thing to battle.
I see where you're coming from on one hand, but I do think like as a whole, like armies and everything just in general need to stop stuff like that. Yeah, like real quick in order for it to function. It's like, so like would his focus have been useful? Yes, but it's like, but if you can't trust him and if he's not going to listen, would he have
if he's turning everyone against your authority, then
would he have actually been helpful? No.
Yeah, so you know what? Like Nellie Bertram in The Office, complete 180. You know what? Do the exact opposite. Kick him out of the entire army. Fire him. He's gone. Banish him from the land. No one ever hears from him again. That's
actually, let's kill him.
All right. Your turn. Question.
Okay. There's 5 factions in the Guard. Which faction would you want to be a part of?
Do you remember all 5, perchance?
There's base faction, which are like it's not infantry. It's essentially the bottom of the totem pole. There's the immunity faction, like the healers. There's the infantry, which there's scale. I can't remember if scale is the infantry or the artillery. But there's, and I can't remember the 4th name. But then there's Venom. So there's base. Healers, essentially infantry, artillery, or like archery, and then Venom, which is like the Navy SEALs of the Guard. And so yes, with all of that information, which would you want to be in?
So like obviously I would say Venom, but I'm also just going to pull a Triss from Divergent situation. It's one of those, like, you really need to know yourself. Like, don't just jump into what you think is cool. And I would actually go into, I think I'd be good as a healer. I think I would play I would feel important. I would feel like I'm making a difference.
But you don't have to fight.
And I wouldn't, And like, I'm just knowing myself. I don't think I would be in the elite of the upper echelon of the army.
That's so true.
I'm just going to play it humble. I would go with healer, yes.
Well, putting on Triss glasses, I guess, picking for myself, of the 5, I would pick Venom.
I love that. I actually think that's accurate, yes.
No, I'm so kidding. I
love that
but that
so
is
much.
That is the coolest, so I do think that's what I want. I know it's like a little bit more of a basic answer, but
putting on my
I don't care. It's
glasses, I'd be Venom.
I'd be the elite of the elite. I think that's the most humble I can
no
be.
Other answer. I'll accept nothing else. Okay, my question: fan cast General Laryk Ashford for me.
Oh man, do I have a fan cast for you? I've already mentioned that he's ginger, and so first and foremost, my immediate thought was Jamie Fraser from Outlander.
That's a good one.
So that's who I pictured. I mean, they explain him as being like really tall and built and broad and everything, and that's Jamie. So I want to ask them if they were watching Outlander when they got inspiration for this.
I need to give you mine,
character.
and I think you're gonna hate it because I hate it, but I can't get it out of my head. I don't know why.
Okay.
You can dye anyone's hair red for the sake of a movie,
Oh,
right?
no.
And so with that being in mind, I think my pick is MGK. I don't know why. Machine Gun Kelly.
Oh my gosh, Ellie.
I know. It's just like for me it's like the lanky but built.
But he's not at all lanky. There's nothing about him that's explained as being lanky.
But in my mind,
but
once again, we have to go with descriptions be damned. In my mind, he's lanky, he's tall, he's got this kind of like better than attitude. I think it's MGK in my mind.
I also just want to.
I'm so sorry, Parker and Bree. I don't know. I think I'm wrong.
I also just want to point out too. This is my head. I haven't stopped thinking about it. You said MGK. I said what? You said Machine Gun Kelly, and I said, "Oh my gosh, Ellie." Tell me why. Oh my gosh, Ellie sounds like Machine Gun Kelly. Like it sounds like
a little
the same. All right, that's all. I'm sorry.
It is a rhyme. There is that. All right, ask me your next one.
Okay.
Take us away from this horrendous question that I just asked.
Thank you. Did you relate more to Osta or Fia, and why? So here, for everyone who hasn't read the book, Fia, especially in the beginning, is very pessimistic, doesn't really care about anyone, including herself, other than Osta, who's her best friend, and really has like a glass half empty attitude about life and just her circumstances. Whereas Osta, who has been through the exact same situation as her, they both were in an orphanage together. They both like don't know who their parents were. They're both have marks on their hands from being Riftborn and living in a city of people who look down on them simply because of where they come from. She is very optimistic, very happy, has a lot of friends. Fia is like her soulmate in best friend form, but like knows a lot of people outside of that, doesn't love her boss but tries really hard, and is just a glass half full personality. So with that background and context, who do you relate more to?
Well, I think it's no secret that I am not the sunshine character in this story. So I'm going to go with Fia. Final answer.
Fia. With my Triss glasses, I'm going to say Fia. Yeah, I think for me it really depends on the day, but I generally tend to be
you
more.
Could really teeter either way. So who do you feel like today, I guess?
Today, well, I'm just recovering from being sick, so I'm feeling a little more Fia today because I'm not quite out of the woods.
You feel more Osta today.
No, because I'm still not 100%. But I'm putting on a brave face. I'm doing my best. So maybe I am Osta. Final answer.
Final answer, Osta. Love that. That was a good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do tend to see things more from a glass half empty mindset. I don't know if that's I think it's just more realistic, guys. I don't know.
Feel like I need to speak to Ellie's character really quick. She's being hard on herself this episode. Ellie is a wonderful person and will help you with everything she has, as much as she is making it seem like she's pessimistic and knows that she wouldn't be qualified to be in the elite of the elite.
I think that actually my Fia mindset gives the answer of what I would feel like what faction would I be part of, because I'm
That's
like,
so
well,
true.
Glass half empty, I don't think I would rank top tier.
True.
So let's just settle for mid. But truth be told, I do have fighting experience.
Yeah,
I do.
She's a black belt in Taekwondo.
In quite a few different arts. So could I have maybe been Venom? No. Final answer.
I was waiting for you to say that. Could I have maybe been Venom? Not a chance.
Yeah. All right. Mine is a little bit more personal, and I love my questions, so please allow me.
Go ahead.
Ma is one of the characters that really adopted Fia in the book. It was truly her found family was Ma and Osta. But Ma had a family member killed.
A twin brother, specifically.
A twin brother, killed by the guard that Fia had joined. And so she took it very personally when Fia...
Sorry,
yes.
He was in the guard and then was killed while he was fighting. He wasn't the guard didn't seek him out and kill him. I know what you meant. I just want to clarify for anyone who hadn't read the book.
Yes, correct. So she took it very personally when Fia joined, more in fear for her safety and just like, why would you do this? You know what happens to people who join the guard. Please don't do this. And Fia, really given no choice, being pushed into the guard by the general and deciding for her own self, like, I do want to learn how to control my powers. I'm sick of living in fear. It ends with Ma really giving her a very harsh silent treatment for the majority of the book. So my question is, what's the longest you've ever given someone the silent treatment, and for what cause?
Honestly, I only ever give the silent treatment for incredibly petty reasons. I don't ever give the silent treatment for something that really matters. But at the same time, I'm a chatty person.
I know.
It's really hard for me to do it for very long. So I think the longest I've ever given the silent treatment probably would have to be to my husband. And I would say it's maybe 45 minutes. But after like 20 minutes of speaking, after like,
do you remember what it was that you were like,
no,
that's it?
It had to have been something so stupid. Like, it had to have been something so dumb. Like, I told you what our plans were this weekend, and you're telling me you didn't remember when I told you? Like, something
I do remember
like that.
One time I think I actually even got mad on Melissa's behalf. Not even at Zeke, but just at like the situation, because I so heavily empathized for her. But she had gotten a milkshake. And I apologize if I've mentioned this on the pod before. It must have been months and months since I have, so it might be a fresh story for new listeners. But
it's funny that this happened to me, and I don't remember. I have no idea what you're about to say.
I'll remind you.
Thank you.
I am deeply burdened by this. I think about this every day. She had gotten a milkshake from Chick-fil-A and was drinking just a sip or two of it, and then Zeke had asked her, do you want me to put this in the freezer for you? And she said yes. And then he didn't. And then she goes, I've been waiting for my milkshake. I think we even recorded a podcast. She's like, I've been waiting for my milkshake. I got it,
yes. I was waiting until we were done doing our recordings to treat myself.
Walks out, milkshake
soup.
Flat and melted. disgusting sugar water. And that's all that there was. I would have blacked out. I'm telling you right now. Poor Grant, because when it comes to food, anyone who's ever listened to this podcast knows, when it comes to food and me, if you wrong me, divorce, friendship, divorce, everything, just leave my life. But I think I would have lost my mind. So that would be, if I had to give a silent treatment, that would be mine. But that was not mine, so I will continue speaking. Mine is...
I was going to say, Ellie, I think the question is better for you. Which time in the last week that you gave someone the silent treatment was the longest, and what for?
I've been pretty cool this last week, pretty kosher. Excellent. My longest silent treatment was to my parents, and this was right after I had seen the hit feature film Twilight New Moon.
Incredible.
Bella is just sitting in her chair. Do you remember when Edward leaves and she sits in the chair and you hear that song, There's a Possibility? And it just like the camera pans around her and it shows like October, November, December, January. And she's just still sitting in there like depressed.
Yep.
I think that my dad had done something to where he was just like, those shorts are too short, like change. And I'm like, you don't respect me. You don't like me.
You don't understand me.
You don't understand me. And so then I was like depressed. And so I was going to pull a full Bella and just not speak to them for 4 whole months.
Sit in that chair. Just come home from school and just go straight to the chair.
Like, my family's not one of those that, like, you don't talk to them and they don't notice. Like, within 30 seconds, they were like, why aren't you answering me? And so that lasted a grand slam total of, like, 45. It's probably the same 45 minutes before I think I broke my silence and was like, what's for dinner? Dang it.
I spoke.
So.
Oh, my gosh.
A little peek into the life. Your question.
Oh, yes, my question. Let's move on from that because otherwise I'm going to get sucked into a Twilight tangent. All right. We already kind of talked about this, but my question is that ending, exclamation point, question mark. Did you see it coming? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark.
Swept me off my feet, that ending. I really, really, really like when a plot twist just comes out of nowhere for me. Like, when it twists, when the plot twists, I enjoy that. When Fia, she's described with very, very specific details to her look, her outside looks, and it doesn't make sense to her surrounding peers because everyone looks kind of normal, and she's got these dark rings under her eyes, and she's very, like, she's
pointy.
Opalescent eyeballs. Yeah, very pointy, very white, like, just does not match her environment. And so there's hints throughout the book, and I wasn't picking up on them. And so then I love when it's like, boom, right in your face. You should have recognized because it was so obvious. And it turns out she's one of the quote unquote wraiths, the Umbra. Shocked me. Shook me to my... They picked me up and shook me like a dog.
I love SpongeBob.
It's Mike Wazowski. It's Monsters, Inc.
Oh, no. Okay. I also love... I hate myself. I also love Monsters, Inc. But
it's okay.
And now that we're talking about this, and this is a question that we all might have, and we won't get answers to until the next book. But I'm curious, since Osta is also a Riftborn, like, of the Riftborn people. I'm not remembering exactly how she's described. I know she has blonde hair, but outside of how, like, her hair, I don't remember too much of her descriptions. I remember her being described as, like, objectively beautiful. But I'm curious, since we now know that Fia is Umbra and, like, one of their people, and they say the Umbra that she's talking to makes a comment saying that Luminaria is gonna do to their world what they did to Riftdramar. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but which is the land that the Riftborn people came from. And so, which speaks to the fact that, like, they were they're a different people group essentially. But I'm wondering, like, what that means for, like, if Osta, like, is she Umbra too, and if so, why doesn't she look the same as Fia, and why does Fia look the same as these other... I have a lot of questions about that I'm sure will be answered, and I don't think anyone has answers for me right now, but
I'm the same. I wonder how Fia ended up in Riftborn, if she truly is, like, an Umbra, and
what does that mean then for, like, her parents and, like, all that, and the other Riftborn people that don't look anything like her, and, like, I smell an
identity crisis coming up.
I also see an identity crisis coming up. And I'm excited to read about it.
I know. It's
all right.
But it's so true.
I know. You have one last question. Shoot.
I do. Here it is. I've always pictured going to these balls and what I would wear. Have you ever pictured that? And what colors do you think you would don?
Oh, Ellie, this is a fabulous question. I've always wanted to go to a ball. Always, my entire life. Like a real one, not Homecoming. But alas, I feel like Homecoming is what I would have had to settle for. Mm-hmm. But now that I'm a grown adult, I have learned palettes and what colors look best on me. And I can't, Ellie, tell me what... I just say I had learned them, and now I can't even remember.
I think you're a spring. I think you remember telling me you were a warm spring.
Warm spring. That's what I was thinking too. Now, I don't exactly remember what colors go into warm spring, but I do know what colors look best on myself. And color in general just looks good. I would have to say, because my eyes are blue, I would go with a aquamarine color, or like a teal. Or something. Honestly, maybe even like an emerald, but that's not going to do much for my eyes. So I'm going to final answer aquamarine-ish blue.
Love it. Aquamarine. Love it. Okay. I have taken the color theory test and I came out as an autumn. And so then I mentioned this before in an episode. I started wearing autumn colors. And when I looked back at the recordings, I looked like a washed out freak. So I have decided that I am not an autumn. I believe I'm actually a summer. And so that being said, black. I'd wear black.
And that makes sense.
Black slimming. Black's never done me wrong. I think
black is Old Faithful. That's true.
Black is Old Faithful. Well, you know what? Maybe yellow. Okay. I feel like yellow.
Really not snapping.
I know.
Like a canary or like a golden?
Like a mustard, like this.
Oh, yes. Big fan. Oh, yes. That would be good on you.
Did you see that? Yeah.
I could see it.
So maybe I'm a warm summer. I don't know. I truly don't know. That is an autumn color. Maybe I just got it wrong. I don't know what's happening. Yellow, final answer.
Oh, interesting. I'm surprised by both of our colors, actually.
Yeah. We would be aquamarine and yellow. I think I hate that.
I hate that together. We can't stand next to each other. Ellie, we can't go to the ball together.
Apart. I know. It's devastating.
I'll just wave at you from the other side. Are you having fun? I'll text you. Are you having fun? This is so cool.
Total sidetrack. But did you see... So you know how they do the Bridgerton balls for right now, real people?
No. I've seen like fantasy balls for like night court stuff, but not
It's
Bridgerton.
Essentially the same thing, but Bridgerton, they I think the big cities like New York and Chicago do them, and so they have like the queen, like everyone dresses up to the nines, like a real ball. They have the queen there. They have some entertainment that's supposed to be as if it were back then. The queen picks out the diamond of the night or whatever.
That's so cool.
Yeah, but then somewhere, and I'm sure you guys know, I can't remember the place, somewhere held a Bridgerton ball, but it was like a total scam, like that Willy Wonka experience thing, but Bridgerton this time.
No.
And it was like an auditorium, and they had like a stripper on a pole. Like it was wild. And people were just, and like they paid for the food, and it was like a burger and chips or something, like just like the flat school lunch type of stuff. Yes. And it was perfectly well, like white light lit, just you're showing up in this auditorium in your ball gown. It was not the mood, and it was horrible to see. I can't believe people do that to others. That's crazy.
That's terrible.
So that's all I had to say on that. But
all right,
thank you for coming up with your questions.
Read Riftborn.
I know.
Yes.
But for real, this book was awesome. We loved it. I loved it. I think it's totally worth the read. Honestly, I told the authors, like, yes, I know, like, I'm saying this, I got an art copy, whatever, all that aside, I truly think that this book is going to be big someday soon. Like, it's so good. I just don't see how it couldn't. It's so well written. Out of a lot of indie books I've read, like, this one is so good. I can't say that enough. So
yeah, I think I gave it a 4 on Goodreads, and the only reason I didn't give it a 5 is just because, like I mentioned, like the writing style isn't necessarily like my personal cup of tea. In parts of it, but the story is really good, and ultimately that, like, the story is a 5, and that's why we read books, like, so that. Would I read this again? Yes. Am I going to read the next book? Yes. Am I going to recommend it to someone? Yes. So it's still like,
and they loved it too. So things to think about if you're figuring out your TBR. I think this
That's so
one
true.
should bump up to the top. And that is all for this week.
Yep. Thank you guys so much for being here. We'll see you on Wednesday for our last episode of Kingdom of Ash.
Oh, bye.